Well then, after weeks and months of sitting here on this channel trying to work out whether Chesterfield were going to make a late dash for the League Two playoff places, the pendulum swinging one way and then the other, we finally have our answer, and the answer was yes. The SPIREITES sneaking in to the top 7 on the final day of the regular season, and what a crazy, dramatic final day it was. Of course, Chesterfield arrived at this final round of fixtures needing some favours from elsewhere outside of the playoff places, with this just the one game to go, and they got one from already relegated Carlisle United, managing to get a 2-2 draw with Salford City, one of the sides that Chesterfield were competing against in that mix, but only just. They raced into a 2-goal lead, Carlisle, but then pegged back to 2-2 with still around half an hour to go, but they did cling on to that point to deny Salford 3 points and do Chesterfield the favour that they needed, and it was rather a case of clinging on for the SPIREITES as well. Up at Accrington, Stanley took the lead in the first half, a 1-0 lead through Will Grigg, but then towards the end of the game, Accrington having 4 or 5 really decent chances to level things up, but they didn't. Chesterfield would hold on to get the win, and more importantly, hold on to that all-important 7th spot, the final playoff spot, and set up now this 2-legged playoff semi-final against Walsall, who themselves had a very eventful final day. Of course, looked like they were somehow going to rescue automatic promotion with a 1-0 win away at Crewe Alexandria, only to be denied so cruelly by Bradford City, who won against Fleetwood Town in the 96th minute to steal back that 3rd and final automatic promotion spot, knock Walsall down to 4th and into the playoffs, and as we say, set up now this tie against Chesterfield. Of course, a little bit of a different format for Chesterfield supporters to get used to again, having kind of gone through the National League playoff format a few times during their stay there. They're back in the EFL, back in League Two now, so it's back to the 2-legged playoff semi-finals, one at home, one away, and then, of course, potentially another trip to Wembley Stadium should they get there, but it's certainly not looking that far ahead yet. We're going to be looking first and foremost at this massive playoff semi-final, and particularly the first leg of that semi-final coming up on Sunday. There is a bit of a nice gap, obviously, as we just said there, the first leg on Sunday, the second game, the away game for Chesterfield on the following Friday, so it does leave a nice gap to hopefully get a video about looking back at the first leg, looking ahead to the second leg. So with that in mind, this video is primarily going to be looking ahead to the first leg, how Chesterfield might approach it, and maybe some tweaks and changes that they might make. We're probably going to skip ahead, kind of in the usual format of the previews. Maybe skip a step. There we go. Tongue twister there. Skip a step. You know what I'm trying to say. Skip ahead to looking at some potential changes that they might make. Usually in these previews we kind of have a look at Chesterfield's most recent 11, maybe what worked, what didn't work so well, and then have a look at introducing some potential changes. We're probably going to skip kind of maybe that first step, skip that first step. I really should stop saying that, and have a look at some changes, because if you do follow me on either Twitter or Blue Sky, you may have seen this already, and I would recommend doing that if you are active on those platforms, just because it's where I will maybe throw ideas out if I haven't got time or the opportunity to make a video, or it's something that might work a little bit better in a written form, or maybe isn't quite bulky enough to be its own fully fledged video. So if you want my thoughts when I'm not here active on YouTube, as I say, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, all those links down in the description, and whatever of those social media sites you happen to be active on. If you want to give me a follow on there, that'll be massively appreciated, and you're more than free to do so. And as we say, the links to all that will be down in the description below. But why I've done that bit of admin and done those kind of promos here is that I did throw this kind of a screenshot of this potential 11 out on my Twitter and on my Blue Sky a couple of days ago. Just as I say, because it was something that was kind of rolling around in the back of my mind. I know I wouldn't have the chance maybe to make this video. I wanted to hold on to make this video just to get confirmation that all these players were going to be available. It certainly sounds like it. Nothing 100% concrete said by Chesterfield's assistant manager, Danny Webb. But what he did say is it's more the long-term absentees, the likes of Che Dunkley, for example, that are likely to be unavailable, and the kind of the medium to short-term absentees, like the likes of Jack Sparks, Armando Dobra, and Ollie Banks, should be back in the reckoning for this game. So that's kind of the assumption that we're gonna work under for this. And But yes, a couple of days ago, I did kind of throw this out there, throw a screenshot of this 11 out there. As I say, one, because I knew I probably wouldn't make this video till Friday, but it was something that was kind of rolling around in the back of my brain. And two, just to get a sample of opinions on it, which was very, very helpful. If you did kind of drop a comment on that, thank you very, very much. Kind of gave me some other maybe viewpoints and alternatives to consider in this video, and we absolutely will. But I do still think, having had a couple more days to sit on it, that this could work very, very nicely. And it does, a lot of it hinge on Armando Dobra and Jack Sparks coming back into the team. We'll talk a little bit about those players individually. First, Armando Dobra, not really much needs to be said. They're a massive, huge, potentially really altering boost to have him back. I think Chesterfield's chances of being successful in these playoffs are, and they're far from a one-man team. I don't want to suggest that they are, but having a player of Dobra's ability, their players' player of the season, their supporters' player of the season, their whatever other awards he won when he cleaned up at that awards night a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, having a player of his ability, of his importance to the team back, I don't think the importance of that can be understated, and I do think their chances of being successful, being the team that makes the run in these playoffs, are boosted pretty significantly by having him back. Sparks is a little bit more of an unknown, of course, was a January signing on loan from Peterborough United, but had a very, very solid start to life in a Chesterfield shirt. I think just before he got injured, he got kind of 4 assists in 2 games, or if they weren't outright assists, he was the one putting the ball in, causing the chaos that eventually led to those goal-scoring situations, and it looked like he was going to become a real key part of the team. And then he got injured, and we haven't seen him for a couple of months, and that's been a big, big blow for Chesterfield. Of course, they have since got the likes of Harvey Rajo and Lewis Gordon back, which has been a boost. I think both players have filled in, particularly Gordon, very, very well. But Sparks offers a little bit of a different dynamic, and it's that dynamic that we're going to talk about here. And it's really, as you can see there, both these players likely to play in some capacity. Of course, Sparks absolutely, Dobra maybe a little bit more free to play on this left-hand side. And it's this left-hand side and this kind of left-hand box that we've got set up here between Sparks, Dobra, Naylor and Metcalf that I want to talk about, because I think that kind of blend of players could be a really nice combination for Chesterfield to exploit, to make a part of their game plan for Sunday's game. But why do I say that? And I think the first thing to say is that there is a lot of kind of complementary profiles that do allow for some rotation to shift Walsall around, to get some kind of one-touch football going. And of course, we'll start with Dobra, because personally, I don't think this is a controversial opinion at this point. I do think, to be honest, his better position is probably infield as the 10, just because he's so good in between the lines, receiving the ball, keeping hold of the ball, got that really nice low centre of gravity. Once he's got the ball, it's very difficult to get it off him, and even when he can't get past the man, he's quite likely to win a foul. Just such an important player for Chesterfield. I think the best you get out of him is in those half spaces. So to pitch him to start on the left may be a little bit of a concern, but because you've got Sparks coming back, who's that little bit more of an attacking, kind of more in the wing-back mould rather than the kind of the traditional full-back mould that maybe Lewis Gordon is, and of course Harvey Raja is a centre-back that fills in at left-back, so he is very much that little bit more of a reserved player. So having somebody that can get down the line, and as we said when we introduced him, really get those crosses in, it does allow that little bit of a wider presence. I think you've also got the opportunity, if Dobra is going to drift infield, you've got the opportunity for, if Sparks stays a little bit more reserved, maybe sits a little bit deeper, you've got Tom Naylor, who, as we've said, such a willing runner in previous videos, such a willing runner, getting up and down the pitch. Maybe because he's had a bit of a weird role, Tom Naylor, the past few weeks. I wouldn't quite call it a number 10 position, but he's definitely been playing that little bit higher. And if you are going to play him there, I think the best dynamic really would be to have Dobra drifting in and then Naylor able to make these runs, kind of overlapping runs alongside him. If you want to get Sparks higher up, you can maybe have Naylor even sit that little bit deeper. Of course, played at centre-back for quite a lot Chesterfield this season, so definitely has that kind of defensive nous capability. If you want both Sparks and Dobra to get forward, you can maybe even drop Jensen Metcalf in there to form kind of kind of 3 in defence, if you like, that kind of in possession 3 that Chesterfield have tended to lean towards at various points throughout the season. You can really have Naylor and Metcalf dropping in there interchangeably if you want to let Metcalf get that further forward. Of course, has become a real goal threat over the past 2 or 3 weeks. Scored a goal against Bradford City, was very unlucky not to do so in the first half against Fleetwood Town. Of course, had the initial shot that then Colclough then hit the post, and then Will Grigg scored at Accrington Stanley. So he himself has become a little bit more adventurous in those past few games. So if you want him to go on an occasional venture forward, you could have Naylor drop back in. You could have Sparks, as I say, being the left back, stay at home and have Naylor bombing forward. All of this is to say that I think with this kind of quartet of players, you've got various players who could fulfill various roles at a given time in a game, and they could all kind of switch and move around and get involved at different points. And I think you can do that pretty seamlessly, and you're not too robotic, you're not too rigid of that player must be in that position and that player must be in that position. Of course, it does take a lot of coordination, because if everybody's moving around, everybody's trying to get forward, you don't want to get cut short at the back. But like I say, Sparks gets forward, Metcalf can drop in, Naylor can drop in, Naylor drops in, Metcalf can get forward, Metcalf drops in, Naylor can get forward. If Sparks or Naylor are wide, Dobra can drift, get on the ball, be that kind of player in the half spaces that can be that threat. And the reason I think Naylor, if he's starting in kind of a quote-unquote number 10 position, can be on this left-hand side is because you've then got Liam Mandeville coming over from right back, tucking in to occupy that right-hand half space. So that's not going to be vacant. It's not as if you're going to have kind of a lot on one side of the pitch and then a giant chasm on the other side. But I think kind of looking to build up down that left-hand side makes a lot of sense when you look at it. When you look at this kind of this, as we say, that kind of box, that quartet, however you want to term it, of players. You've got a lot of players there that can fulfill a lot of roles, move Walsall around, and yeah, I do think this could work very well. And even from a defensive standpoint, obviously, we spoke in, I think it's the most recent video on this channel actually, about kind of Tom Naylor had this role of kind of tracking the kind of right wing backs in the Wimbledon game and the Bradford game, a bit of a hybrid role for him. And I do think you could maybe, particularly if you've got him kind of bombing on ahead of Dobra on this far side, as I just try and move everybody back round there. If you've got him on that far side, he's then already out there anyway, and he can just kind of shuttle and watch this wing back. And that, again, I think it could work. And if you're playing kind of the 3 at the back, all you've then really got to do is drop a couple of players back, and then you've kind of got that makeshift back 5 to try and cover that as Walsall come forward and cover off the threat of their wing backs. So again, even from a defensive standpoint, again, you are going to have to execute these rotations well, and not everybody flying forward, because then there is the potential to get caught short at the back. But I think from an attacking standpoint, this works. I think from a defensive standpoint, it's reasonably solid, and I do genuinely believe that this could be something very, very interesting for Chesterfield to explore, of course, on the basis and on the kind of assumption that these players are fit enough to, if not play the full 90, at least play kind of 60, 70 minutes and be in contention for the start. And one final thing before we move on to maybe some counterpoints, just to kind of plug this a little bit more as I try and move everybody kind of back into their initial positions. I really should edit these videos down, because this bit is a little bit fiddly, but I do think, again, just doing this in one take, doing it raw, it allows you to kind of see my thought process in real time. I do think that is an interesting kind of element to it when we're discussing this. But one final thing to talk about this potential setup, this hypothetical setup, before we talk about maybe some counterpoints that were raised by people. And again, if you did get involved in that discussion over on Twitter or Blue Sky, massively, massively appreciated. Definitely kind of brought me some alternative things to think about and discuss in this video that may have been kind of comments underneath this video, and hopefully we can address all that. But one final thing before we do move on to that portion of the video is, I think, yes, you're going to look to focus your play down the left-hand side. But I think because you're overloading this left-hand side, Walsall, if you do that, they're going to have to bring bodies over to avoid kind of being a numerical disadvantage and allowing Chesterfield to just play through them, really. Is what that then does, if you're kind of flooding the left, bringing the game, dragging everybody over to that left-hand side, is it could also open up some very interesting opportunities for Michael Olakigbe over on the right-hand side. Of course, Olakigbe probably Chesterfield's most direct player, particularly if this is the 11 that they go for. Loves to try and beat a man. Yes, it doesn't always work, and yes, he does definitely, I think, need to work on his end product, but such a kind of raw talent, and he definitely has the kind of basic skills there to be a real asset. And if you can get him the ball, as I say, if you can force everybody over to that left-hand side and then execute a quick switch, whether that's maybe Sparks looking to switch the ball over, whether it's Metcalf, whether it's Naylor, maybe it's kind of having the ball on this side and then quickly dropping it back to John Fleck and allowing him to hit those balls over to Olakigbe, as we've definitely seen him do in a few games this season. I think that could be a very interesting switch to then exploit, because if you pulled everybody over to one side, Olakigbe is going to have the space, maybe some 1v1s to really get going, and that could be another way in which they can look to hurt Walsall. Pull everybody over to one side and then execute that quick switch to your most direct, your most kind of lively, your most threatening dribbler to beat men, to get into space, and then to get the ball across and kind of target all these players waiting on the other side for a ball in. So, yeah, I think, of course, this is all theory. Football obviously never really goes 100% to plan, but this excites me. It really, really does. I think there's some very complementary things there. I think that left-hand kind of box that we're talking about, again, has some really complementary rotations. It opens up a lot of possibilities, and it also opens up the chance of kind of maybe isolating Olakigbe 1v1 against some defenders on the other side. So, with all the positives and all the beating up I've done of this, what are some potential things to be wary of? And I think that the first thing that a few people brought up to me when I was discussing this on Twitter was, Sparks has been out for a long time. So is he going to be kind of fit and ready to come straight into what is such a massive, massive game? There's no time for easing in now. It is crunch time. Every goal, everything matters at this stage of the season. Is he ready to go? And number two, he is that little bit more of an attacking option. So would you rather play Lewis Gordon over Jack Sparks, keep this more kind of defensively solid kind of three, if you like, of Palmer, McFadzean and Gordon in place and do things that way? And I certainly wouldn't be surprised if that is the case, if that is what Chesterfield choose to do. My only real counter to that is, I think Jack Sparks was so good and such a threat and offered such a great extra dynamic to Chesterfield's attack when he played that, if he's fit. But of course, that's something that Chesterfield's coaching staff are going to have a far better insight on than I do. But if he is fit, if he is capable, and if they are confident, Paul Cook and go, that he is capable of playing a role in this game, I would play him particularly for this home leg, to get out early, to put the pressure on Walsall. Of course, it's not going to be an easy game. Just because Walsall have had a bad 2025, they've only won 3 games this calendar year, albeit one of them against Chesterfield at the Bescott Stadium. A real kind of write-off of a second half for Chesterfield in that game. You can't write Walsall off at all. Absolutely, you cannot do that. They are still a threatening side. But dropping out of the playoffs in the manner that they did, you've got to be immensely strong-willed, I think, for that not to have an effect at all. And of course, Chesterfield are at home in the first leg. Can they feed off that? Can they feed off Walsall being a little bit at rock bottom when it comes to the way they were denied automatic promotion? Get the home crowd behind them. Get on the front foot. Put them under pressure. And really, from minute one, drive home that kind of momentum advantage that they have. And I think the best way to do that is to really not go all guns blazing, not leave yourself open at the back, but take the risk of playing that more attacking option in Sparks and try and get yourself off to a great start. Give yourself something to work with in that return leg. And as I say, capitalise on the fact that you are the team with the momentum, which Chesterfield are in these playoffs. I know that they're the lowest ranked side, and again, it's not going to be easy. I'm not suggesting at all that Chesterfield can just steamroll their way through these playoffs. There's going to be challenges. These teams, despite the fact they're on a little bit of shaky form, and all 3 of them below Chesterfield in the recent form tables, if you like, they're not going to be easy games. And the season has proved that. Every game, all 6 games between Chesterfield and Walsall, Chesterfield and Notts County, Chesterfield and AFC Wimbledon, they've all been relatively close affairs. So not going to be walkovers for Chesterfield in any stretch, but they do have the momentum with them. They're probably the team with the most buy-in behind the manager, behind the project, if you like, from the supporters. And can Chesterfield play on that in this first leg, get that sellout crowd behind them, and give themselves a real good chance of getting to Wembley? The other discussion, really, as we say, would it be more beneficial to keep Dobra in this 10 position and then maybe play a real kind of wider threat out there in terms of either Ryan Colclough or Dylan Duffy on that left-hand side? And I think kind of one of those dominoes kind of affects the other, really. I think if you're going to play Gordon over Sparks, I would absolutely then probably play either Colclough or Duffy, particularly if you're going to play Dobra in the 10. But if we're taking it that Sparks is going to play, I think he can kind of provide that crossing option. I think if you're playing Dobra on the left, you've then got Naylor to provide kind of those legs and kind of that overlapping option. Of course, the kind of example that comes to mind there was the game against Notts County, that chance that Tom Naylor missed that then Notts County went on to score. But you saw there him kind of going on the outside of Armando Dobra, and I wonder if that's the kind of run we could see him replicate in this game. So plenty of possibilities for Chesterfield, absolutely, but this is the lineup that we are going to pitch. Do I think that Chesterfield would do it? I'm not 100% sure. I wouldn't be surprised if Gordon plays. I wouldn't be surprised if either Colclough or Duffy play, because Chesterfield have been in very good form. But I think Sparks and Dobra are very talented players, could contribute a lot to this attack. And as we say, if they're really going to go out and attack this first leg, which I think would be the sensible thing to do, given everything that we've discussed, I think they could be big contributors to that. But we are now clocking in at over 20 minutes, and this is the longest video I've done on this channel, but I think you can understand why. This is a massive game. We are in the business end of the season, and a massive chance for Chesterfield, as we say, to drive home that momentum that they've got from sneaking into the playoffs, from being in the best form really over the last 10 to 12 games of any team in the playoffs, to play Walsall, who, again, I want to stress this one more time, I'm not saying it's going to be a walkover. I'm not writing Walsall off at all. I expect a hard-fought contest. But Chesterfield have got this first leg. They come off it with one team getting into the playoffs, jubilant scenes. The other one, players literally falling to their knees when they realised that Bradford had scored and they weren't getting promoted. Can Chesterfield play off that? That is the big question. Or have Walsall taken this time to go again? And if they do, fair credit to them. And if they do, and then they arrive in the right mindset, then my word, are we going to have a great contest on our hands? And I cannot wait for it. First leg on Sunday, second leg the following Friday. Hopefully another video coming between those videos. But if you made it to the end of this one, as we say, it's a bit of a mammoth one. Thank you so much for being here. Any support would, of course, be appreciated. Likes, subscriptions, whatever. Any thoughts on what we've discussed today, of course, massively welcomed. And as I say now, all attention turns to the SMH Group Stadium on Sunday for this massive first leg between Chesterfield and Walsall. Hopefully we'll see you back here for some reaction to that game next week. But as I say, thank you so much for making it through this longer video, and hopefully I will see you very soon in the next one. So thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.